Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life discussion. I'm your host, and with me is my very dear friend, Anne Sinclair. How are you doing, Anne?
Hi, I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. But for all of you that are joining us today, if this is the first time you're watching this podcast like program, please note that our program called The Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to a better life. It has weekly discussions, right? And they're totally based on the work by Joanna de Angelis. And we're here today, Anne and everyone, to offer this safe space so that we can perhaps confront, compare, correlate, and even expand our spiritual or spirituality concepts from a psychological lens. And we're here to do this so that we can perhaps bring insights, some tips, and even some real world advice to help you and I live a better life. Anne and I will discuss some aspect of a big topic, right, Anne? Health and well being. And we know there are so many nuance, so many things that we can talk about, but we're going to just have a brief conversation based on a wonderful work by Joanna de Angelis on the subject. The book it is, and I'm going to translate it from its original in Portuguese. It just says "Moments of Health," um, and it talks about our well-being, our health, and also, of course, really the blessing that it is to be healthy. So, with that, I wanted to say before we start a conversation, Anne, I wanted to perhaps recognize the organizations who are sponsoring this program, and they are the TV Mansão do Caminho, the Internet United States Spirits Federation. I'm all over the place today, and let's start it again. TV Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and another one, which is the in English would be the Spiritual Medical Association. In Portuguese is AME Brazil, the group of individuals that created a psychology nucleus in that medical association to really dissect psychological concepts found in the works by Joanna de Angelis. So we're here today to talk, and I invite all of you to provide your, I don't know, messages, feedback, any thoughts that you may have, any questions in the chat window, and we get to them as soon as we get some time. But Anne, I wanted to say to you that when I started just reading the book, and Jonah DeAngelis started talking about the fact that if you want success in anything that you do, any endeavor, you really should plan it well. Don't know that you know, and by professionally, I'm a project manager. So she spoke to me, right? She brought to me to my comfort zone, which is if you plan, if you think, if you analyze, if you schedule, you get to a much better uh, position to reach the right outcome. And I just wanted to know, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what does it mean? How does planning something have to do with health anyways?
Thank you, Marcia. Yeah, Shona, she always surprises us when she comes to different subjects from unusual angles. But
Right.
I think it's really helpful because a lot of us might not think about our health until we have a problem of disease, until
Yes.
we lose our health. But what she is suggesting is that in order to have good health, you need to make a plan. And it says you get, you reap what you sow. So
Yeah.
if you make a plan and for good health, you will get good health. and just thinking about what are the things that impact on our health. So we know that, like, we are living in a world of matter, a very materialistic world. A lot of our healthcare and of things that are available in society at the moment for us, they're like, we get a lot of preventative medicine and, you know, curative medicine. We can be taking vitamins or vitamins, depending which way you like to pronounce it. We could do several things, but she's going a little bit beyond, because she's reminding us that we are spirit. And as a spirit, we are generating energy all the time. That is our thoughts. We are emanating these thoughts like a radiation that's coming from us
Hmm.
all the time. And that we are immersed in this radiation. And that this radiation is like a cloud all around us, if you like, that is going into our bodies right down to the cells. If we are emanating good thoughts and love and peace and things like that, we can think about the quality of those vibrations that are hitting our cells, that are hitting the different parts of our body.
And you can see it's quite soft, right? You can say, "Oh my goodness, Anne, stop! Thoughts and of love. This is too soft." But there's actually some evidence of that, right? There's some really interesting evidence, especially if you go back to the very material aspects of our life, which is as biosocial animals, right? Joanna always brings that notion that we have a biological component to our lives on earth as material beings. And we also have a social aspect, which is that interaction between one another and the impact in our physical and mental health that it comes just from that, from perhaps isolation or lack of touch points. But when we give yet another dimension, that the spiritual dimension, the dimension of us as immortal souls that are essentially energy source, then it gets really complicated. But go ahead, Anne. I just thought it
No,
would be good to add.
absolutely. And you picked up well, because some people might think it's very fluffy. But radiation, let's say, okay, radiation, you don't see it. So, for
Mhm.
example, if you have a cancer and you're having radiotherapy, you go to the
Yeah,
hospital and they burn that tumor inside you with radiation that you don't see, but that makes you very, very ill, with the
yeah,
purpose of trying to cure you of that growth that ought not to be there. So,
yes,
although you can't see it, you can't smell it, it's very powerful. And the same way, our thoughts are equally powerful. We can't see them, we can't register them, we don't have a machine yet that's picking up on our thoughts, kind of thing.
yeah,
So we don't kind of believe it, because we are just very still on the level of gross matter, and we want
yeah,
to, you know, touch and see. But I think that if you think about the impact, a microwave, you know, cooks
yeah,
something with
yeah,
radiation,
yes,
just,
yeah,
but we are a generator of radiation as well, and we are the first ones to be impacted by our emanations. I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the name of this famous Japanese scientist that did these experiments with water.
yes,
You can Google
yes,
them. I forgot his name. It's something with an H. And
yes,
he looks at the molecules of water, and depending of his what kind of vibration you send, like hate or love, and then they change their shapes. It's
yes,
just amazing. And the same can be said
yes.
for snow as well, can be changed. So science already starts.
Emoto is his last name.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Emoto. Yes, it's beautiful. If anyone has not seen it, please, please, please Google, because the formation in water that he does in the experiment is quite amazing, isn't it? And
And if you think in the parallel, you
yeah,
know, we are made of water. Our physical
yes,
bodies are water.
yes,
So you can make a parallel. So then
yeah.
it starts becoming something fluffy and, oh my gosh, and very romantic. Yeah, lovely, you know, hippie, whatever. No,
Yeah.
actually, it's coming down to the level of your biology, your science, and thinking like, okay, we are emanating these thoughts, and in the same way that they can be purifying thoughts and creating health and vitality and well-being, they can
Hmm.
likewise generate a polluting environment if we are very being angry and jealous and all kinds of things that make us sometimes even say, I'm so angry, I feel sick, you know.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is true because we are intoxicating ourselves with our emanations, with our emotions.
So let's
Now,
go back. So let's go back to what Dr. Emoto did, right? So several while ago, right? He did a water experiment where he would sometimes he would put words, right? Like you said, anger or love or abstract words, but really that had what we can consider positive or negative impact, emotional impact. And then he would freeze that water and he would look at the crystals, and the crystal formations in some were intricately but beautiful, beautiful, versus the negative were always sometimes malformed, right? Missing pieces. And to extrapolate that to the physical body as water, right? We are what, 65% water, 75% water?
no, more like 90 something.
Oh, so, so
We
I'm,
are
I'm
water.
grossly um, uh, underestimating the impact of this discussion here, right? If you are emanating good thoughts, just think about what happens for the H2O, right? The molecule, but how will that impact in everything, in your tissues, in your circulation, your blood, etc., etc. Interesting enough, Anne, and I don't know if you heard of it this before, but there's some experiments, and this is school, like young kids, experiments where they do the same. They have plants, not water, but plants, right? Uh, let's say a little um, bean, right? That you start to germinate, and you put one that you go there and you say bad, you're so terrible, you're horrible. And then the other is, wow, you're so beautiful. And they say this is amazing how those plants grow. Similarly, I heard of experiments for young children to teach the power of words, where let's say you get something cooked. Let's say, I don't know, rice, right? A little bowl of white rice, and you put in the fridge. So there is a life cycle for that rice before it gets bad. And what they found is that the rice that the child speaks really good words and soothing and loving with their thoughts, projecting love, would go 5 times longer than the one that they say you're terrible and emanate all those negative thoughts. So, water, plants, food, us,
Us.
us, right? We have a direct impact of our health and well-being. And so this is really important for us to think in terms of what Joanna is teaching us. I don't know, Anne, is it an alert? Is it a form of awareness? What is it that she's trying to tell us in her discussions
She,
this
yeah,
book?
she calls it as a preventative measure,
Hmm.
planning for good health.
Yes,
So
yes.
we might be in a situation where we don't have good health today, for example. And then there's no point saying, oh, because I had bad thoughts and now I'm ill and not going down that, guilty kind of
Yeah.
pathway. But just saying, look, planning, going forwards. We are on earth, let's say,
Hmm.
on an exercise of development. And for this
Yes.
exercise or this project of development that we have, of
Yeah.
self-development, we have a body. And our
Yes.
body is not by chance. Our body is precisely the body we need for this experience, for this story, for this
I
adventure.
love it. Yes.
Yeah. And this body, well, we want it to last out the period that we're meant to be here, and to
Uh-huh.
last out in good condition, working well. So we need to look after it. So, like I say, we might be looking after it well, like going to the gym and working out and choosing our food with like paying attention and, trying to have like a good balance and drinking water and those kind of things. But what she's saying is that our thought process, our emotions are just as important, because we are
Yes.
not just the material body. We are this spirit that's emanating nonstop.
Mhm.
And we have control over our thought process, although we might not think it sometimes, because by the time we
Mhm.
realize our thought, it's already out there. But what she
Yes.
wants us to do is to awaken, you know, to become aware of whom we are, of these
Mhm.
spirits of infinite possibilities that we are, just temporarily going through this experience on earth, and to regain sort of some sense of, even if I have, let's say, bad thoughts, and and I'm swearing and I'm angry, I say, okay, I catch it. I say, thank you. Now that was, let me just change the channel. Let me
Mhm.
revert this. It doesn't mean like to repress your emotions, because that's not healthy either, but it's to
Yeah.
recognize them and rein them in and say, how can I, instead of keeping in this wheel of continuity. For example, if you're angry, let's say, and complaining. So I have some WhatsApp groups, from neighbors and things like that. And then sometimes somebody comes in and complains about whatever, you know, the road, the hole in the road that nobody's fixing. And then another neighbor comes in, oh yes, that hole in the road is a nuisance. And then somebody else comes in, oh yeah, that hole. And then we all, yeah, but that's not the only hole. Further down, there's another one. Oh yeah, and then over there, they fixed it, but they didn't fix it well, and that's why. And we just get into this whole sort of continuity of feeding on each other's negativity without even realizing it.
Can I say something to it? Because I think it's important. Because on one hand, in your case, is complaining, right? It's just an
Mm,
evidence of as we complain and we can feed almost in a mono ideation or a fixated theme. It is a whole. It is a nuisance. The government or the whatever organization that's supposed to take care of it is not doing it, and you're just doing it. But it's important for us to maybe do another experiment here. Is that okay, Ed?
yeah.
Like, which is called resonance, right? We
Mm,
started this discussion about energy, physics, right? And a thought process is a wave, right? A
yeah.
physical wave, just like my words is an expression of how the sound that I make when I articulate a thought with my vocal cord. So the wave, but there's also a resonance. The more there are thoughts in this case that are the same wavelength, a wave or frequency, the stronger the thought will be, which is what you're talking here, correct? And I think from an experiment perspective, it is like this. Two people, two friends. This is I'm going for very very basic here, Anne. But if I say like, "Hey, Anne, nice meeting you. It is so good to be here. Um, I wonder if you like coffee." And let's pretend you say, I love coffee. Oh, look at us. That's resonance, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a point of connection. We like coffee. Hey, Anne, let's just meet next week and we're gonna go to a coffee shop and we just spend an hour talking. Yes. And by any chance, I'm gonna go on a weekly now basis. I don't know, this is completely fictitious now. We're going to go to a yoga class. Would you like to go with me? And you go like, ugh. Well, you say yes, right? But let's pretend you say no. It's like, oh, not resonance. And I go, what about if you like to go on a horse ride? No. And the more you say no, the less, the weaker it becomes. But the more we come together, the stronger it is. So, why am I saying that? It is because the resonance in that ideation of, say, the pothole that you're talking about, the more your thought will be feeding, if you will, that energy that will indeed um, interact with your well-being at a cellular level, right, at the molecule level, versus the other. If we are in tune, and I am saying this in relationship to a prayer, right? When we're in tune with meditation, a reflection, or a prayer, you're actually bringing that energy level to a frequency that is one that will get you healthy. Did I say this right? Am I missing anything?
No, that, and I think that's a really important point, because it is about recognizing what thoughts are we emanating, and
Yeah,
who are we resonating with.
correct. Uh-huh.
And sometimes, like, even like, TV programs, internet, TikTok, whatever you're watching, when you're looking for something, so let's say you're in a bad mood and you find that somebody else who's also in a bad mood, you feel like sort of like vindicated, and it just feeds on it. So what she's saying to us is that we need to have that awareness to wake up and say, okay, because life is such, we will have bad moments. We
Yeah.
are not angels on earth. We are
Yes.
we we are spirits in evolution. So, but
Yes.
it's about wake up and then realize, let's say I had an argument at work, and I've come home and I've been driving, and the argument is still in my head. The people are still in the office, but it's still going on my head. I should have said this. Or
Yeah.
they were not fair to say that to me. Or who do they think they are? I continue the argument with myself in my head while they're gone. So that's
Yes.
not healthy for me. But it might take me a while to realize, oh my gosh, look at me. I am carrying on this conversation all by myself. I need to change my channel. I need to
Yes.
change where my thoughts are going. So it's about learning what works for you. For some people, they put on a channel of music, like a completely, different type of music or something that they get connected to. Some people like to use dance. Other people say, I'll just do some cooking. But just like take your mind elsewhere to disconnect from that, so that you're not reinforcing it, so that you
Yeah.
can change then what are the vibrations that you are giving out, so as to help yourself.
Yeah, and
But
I
some
often
people,
think, right, and I often think we are a society of distracted individuals, right? There are in a single day, 24 hours, a number of out inputs to how we think that can distract us or derail us from what we plan to be, to do, to exhale, if you will, in terms of what we that energy that we want to be in a healthy state. But we are distracted, and I find it interesting. If you think about it, you just mentioned work and a problem and people moving on, and you still got caught in that feeling. And I often wonder, and this is a really naive thinking, but I often wonder what what is the thought process, for example, or the energy that is around a person that, for example, works in a fiction, here again, hypothesis, but it's completely fictional. But I work at a in a website that I do all the graphics for this website for a horror movie, or a serial in on TV about murder and da da da, or and I say this because I read an article, very interesting yet depressing article, about what if you were the executioner in a prison, that for those people that were judged to be, get the sentence, a death sentence,
mm,
and you executioner. And I don't know if you know this, just as an example, this article that I read many years ago talked about in the US, for those states that allow death sentence. I don't know if you know this, and but there's several people, right? Several people, all executioners, and the person that was judged to die at that point. And if it is by lethal injection or if it is even by shock, several people without knowing will do at the same time, only one will actually execute. And this is to help, and it's really doesn't help. Each and every one of those people, those jobs have horrible health issues, which is the impact of being the vehicle by promoting death on another individual, regardless of their past, regardless of all the things this person has done to society. But here I am as an executioner. And so there's a lot of studies about mental health of those individuals. And this is a very example of this. What can we do? And we can by simply choosing, right? And I think that's the conclusion that we have here. We can promote our health and well-being by choosing our words, choosing our thoughts, choosing our profession, what we do for leisure or time off. What is it that we're doing so that we are like Dr. Emoto in the experiment with water? We're promoting beautiful water molecules and creating a physical. This is physical, right? Physical well-being as well as emotional well-being.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that is just to add on to the your thoughts there, Marcia, is that sometimes in life we are caught up in a situation which might not be ideal,
Hmm.
and not lose hope. Don't
Hmm.
feel sad. Everything you always start. We always say like baby steps. Wherever
Yes.
you are, whatever your situation, you can start to change the way you relate your thoughts, the way you relate to your body, to yourself, to embrace yourself, to love yourself. That's why Jesus says, you need to love yourself,
Yeah.
because that maintains our health. And it's just we need to start practicing it. So we're not going to be perfect in 1 minute.
Hmm.
This is
Or
a
change
life.
your situations in 1 minute, right? If
Yeah,
my only job is an executioner,
yeah,
what can I
exactly. It
do?
might be,
Yeah.
I don't have another job. I don't have another
Yeah.
opportunity. Don't feel
Yeah.
bad. Okay. So society we live in provides this job.
Yeah.
But say, what can you start doing already to start in a way, not being judging yourself or whatever, thinking about making a plan of how things could be different. I wanted to add in here the thought also that Joanna brings, and of course, I think a lot of people are familiar with that. Sometimes we might develop health problems during our life because perhaps we bring something from a previous life. Some people will call it karma. Other people would say, well, in a previous life, we created an energy imbalance that now has to be redressed in this
Hmm.
life, and that we're going to have to deal with this. And sometimes this can be really serious and big things, and not to feel also bad. Oh, I must have been a horrible person. Look what's happened to me. I've got this cancer now, and no, it's just thinking like I have now the opportunity to redress this. Gratitude. Thank you. I can redress this now. I can change this now. Even if my body is aching and not feeling well, this is an opportunity of renewal, of growth. I think that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. So you would find, like, on the same cancer ward, you find people who are, in peace with their cancer and trying to work it out as best they can together with their body. And you find other people who are really angry and think it's not fair and that they can't understand why this has happened
Yeah.
to them or why me, kind of thing, which is a very normal and human reaction. No, no,
Yeah.
no judgment, but I'm just saying, like, you have these different types of presentations depending on where that spirit is in terms of understanding the the function of disease in our lives.
Can I
Disease
tell you a
sometimes is a
story?
blessing,
Yeah. Yes.
sometimes
Yes.
it's a blessing.
Can I tell a story about someone that I know?
Yeah, sure.
It's a personal story. It's a real story, but it's somebody who spent his entire. This is a guy who is he spent his entire life as an angry person. So let's just in our minds, let's put all that we can think or emulate in our thoughts of an angry person. And in anger, as we know, we discuss a lot of anger and mental health. But in anyways, anger just to digress a little bit, anger is just one of four basic emotions everybody has, right? Everybody, from a psychological profiling, it's a mechanism of survival, right? That leads you to react in relation to a threat, outside threat. Joanna, when she talks about anger, she talks about, let's think about it. Our threats, caveman threats, were very different than our society today, where we're insulated from physical threats, and they shift, right? Those threats shift into external dangers to destroy our egoic constructions in our personality, in our lives, right? So that's all it is. I, whenever I portray that I am this person and there is a threat to that image that I create, then I have a reaction that can be a reaction of anger. Well, this angry man not only was anger about everything, this is a long history, decades of just being angry, angry with his coworkers, angry with his boss, angry with everybody, and disproportionately so. If anything real happened. So you talk about pothole, I get into a pothole, instead of going like, oh no, I got a pothole, but it's okay, we're moving on. He would just go on into expletives and all of this. This man was so angry, and it's very saddening to say that, I found from somebody else that he was actually going through a long, intricate plan to commit suicide. That's how angry he was. He was so angry with himself and life that he wanted just to kill. So there he is. I found out that he is about 5 years in the making on the elaborate scheme to how he's going to kill himself in the manner that will be least disruptive to everybody else. And then he gets cancer. And guess what? As hard as it is to see him, through the diagnosis and the treatment and chemotherapy, every single time that I personally seen the photo of this man who was angry his entire life, he's much older than I am, so angry his whole life and actually planning to kill this life, every single photo he was smiling and happy. Isn't it funny? And when you talk about, in the cancer ward, how some people will react, in this case, I can tell you, and I speak from the heart, that that disease, in this case, how difficult it is actually addressing something that he had in the majority of his life and he was unable to touch upon, and now he's embracing the healing through the body and healing potentially his spirit. Just a thought.
Mm. Yeah, that's really interesting, because it's about thinking about disease, illnesses beyond the material point of view. Yeah,
Hmm.
they are material manifestation. We
Yeah.
have an ailment in our body, but the origin is from the energy field.
Yes.
Even if something is happening to us from the outside that took us
Mm.
to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, inverted commas, and we
Yes.
get involved in a car crash or something and we get injured. It's just thinking that what is this situation teaching me?
Yes.
What is this situation clearing from my past? Or
Yes.
what is it trying to avoid an even worse outcome in the
Yes.
future?
Yes.
So it's like opportunities to stop and think and redress and sort of, you know, collect our thoughts. One of the things that Joanna, and of course, not only her, but so many suggest is like the power of prayer to help us to reconnect with source, with where we come from, with who we
Hmm.
truly are, with God. And
Hmm.
that sometimes is what we need to do, because sometimes we've just gone off on a tangent. The
Hmm.
material world is so
Yes.
convincing that we kind of forget that we're not
Who
this
we really are. Yeah.
no, but it's just because all the information is just reinforcing that all the time. It's very strong. So having this opportunity of prayer and reconnecting with the source, and sort of like realigning ourselves and recenter, okay, this is my situation now. What are we going to do? How are we going to progress, and how can I make things better by emanating the best thoughts possible, so that the energy field is constantly sort of clearing. I can always think it's like water. If you can
Yeah.
imagine like a little waterfall coming down like that, and that water's going, and if it's clear water or if it's dirty water, if you like,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
how I kind of imagine it. And what's it taking to the rest of my body, so that to be ill, to have a cancer, or to have another
Mhm.
disease or something, it's not a failure of my thought process. It's what's been brought to me for whatever reason at that time, and what can I learn from this? I mean,
Beautiful. Yeah.
it's not easy, because most people will not enter that narrative, and they will say, oh, it's so unfair, you're young, or this is like, oh, this is painful, or this is difficult, and all these kind of things. It is it is difficult and painful, but it is bringing your attention to this is important, and this is important, and the you can find comfort and peace through prayer. But it also reminds me of the other thing, is that we don't live alone. Even
Yeah.
when we think we're alone, we have our team of spiritual friends around us in the
Yes.
invisible, and these spiritual friends are on the same frequency as us. So if
So,
we are
so,
going,
so, yeah. So let me just stop here, but don't forget where you are, because I wanted to, for you who's watching this today, and you don't believe in that, we can talk about not believe, or you're not comfortable with the idea that there is a spiritual team around us. Um, there is a a figure that it's easy for me to explain, and which is the idea that if you were in an enormous bowl of water, right? And in the water, we add lots and lots and lots of ice cubes. So we have ice cubes and you have water, and some of the ice cubes will turn into water again. And if you refreeze, they'll become to ice cube. And that is kind of a neat way to understand reincarnation, right? Not only in the sense that it's all again water. Today's theme is water, right? H2O molecule in a denser or not so dense um, uh, configuration, right? Ice or water, but also that one can turn to the other and vice versa. But the fact that we also, if we look at ourselves, the denser selves, the ice cubes, we are around of us, there's many other water molecules, our team of spirits that are with us at any given time.
hmm, yeah, and we do, yeah, attract like for like.
Yes, yes, yeah,
It's the same, like we say, if you go, let's say, to watch a concert, you
yeah,
will have people who go there, the people who like that kind of music. If you
yes.
go, I don't know, to a football match, you'll have the people who kind of like that kind of sport.
Or
If
even more abstract to this, right? And let's imagine first day of school, you're new in that classroom setting,
yeah,
and somehow you gravitate to the people that think like you, to dress like you, that look perhaps like you, doesn't matter, but some mechanism of a likeness that puts
mm,
us together. And I think it's very interesting because you observe that with young kids as well as adults, where
yeah,
first day you don't know anybody, but you start to form those subgroups, and it's the same, like you said, if we go to the same concert, most likely we all like the same music or the same type of sports, the same team. But it is true that the resonance happens even when we're not consciously aware.
Yeah. It's all the time. It's
Yes.
all the time. And that's why I always say, like, nothing in our lives, nothing is happening in isolation.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's all in this kind of greater magnetic field where everything
Hmm.
is there for a reason, or even if we don't know what the reason is, or even if we never come to know what the reason is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we can understand that things are there for some, because they fit
Yeah.
the purpose. So when we bring it back to our health,
Yeah.
so what Joanna is suggesting is saying, like, even if we have a disease, we might still be healthy. Although
Yeah.
our body has a disease, we might
Hmm.
be in a healthy emotional state, in a healthy spiritual state, and we're just, our body needs some repairs or some attention because.
Which is a shift, right? A paradigm shift in how we see both health and disease.
And then she says she wants to move us away from being the victims, that victimhood in which these things happen to us sort
Hmm.
of randomly and without any justification, but
Hmm.
saying no, actually, even when we are in a situation of disease, we have the ability to feel better or not according to our general health, our
Yes.
well-being, our
Yeah.
mental health, our physical. What kind of thoughts are we doing? How what are we doing with our thoughts? Are we just ruminating with anger or sadness or disappointment, or are we like trying to find what are the benefits of this? What is this teaching me? And have that curiosity and not feel sorry for ourselves in that way.
Yeah.
Although lots of people might come and say, "Oh, poor you," which reinforces that victimhood position. But
Yeah.
lots of the things that manifest in my body, they may well be the result of how I've lived my life so far.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if I've consumed certain substances, my body might not have liked it, and it might have a reaction. It's okay. This is the consequence. So I think that one of the things that Joanna brings a lot to us is saying that in life we are experimenting, we are finding out, we are testing, we are learning. So even if sometimes the consequences are not pleasant, they're a lesson. They're teaching us something.
Yeah.
So it's not a punishment. There is
Yeah.
no punishment as such. You
Yeah.
do this, this is what happens. You do that, that is what happens. So we are
Yes.
learning what are the consequences of all our actions and our thoughts and our way of being. And then we can live the experience and say, yeah, okay, now I get that. So let's say, give an example, like when you're younger and you might go out partying too much and have too much alcohol, and then the next day you have a hangover and you go, oh,
Uh-huh.
this is horrible, I'm never going to do this again, I feel so bad, I feel so ill, I feel so unwell. And most people then completely ignore what they're saying at that moment and go on to do it again.
Yeah.
But all that feeling unwell, feeling sick and thinking, oh god, this was not good, that was the lesson. They said, this is not good. Pay
Yes. Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
But
And
as
of
we
course,
go.
when you said we are immersed in a context to which there may be pressures for you to behave a certain way, to do certain things, but it's
100%.
up to us to be aware on what is the impact on my health and well-being.
Yeah, and we need to take responsibility for our health and
Hmm.
well-being.
Hmm.
It's like I say, our body is our car, it's our
Yeah.
computer, it's our
Yeah.
instrument in order to
Yes.
be on earth. If
Yes.
we look after it well, it will last us, as well as it can. If it has a long battery or a short battery, however it came from factory, we can do. But if we get a virus in it because we have
Yeah.
gone places where we ought not to have gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is we're learning about the consequences. Yeah, when you get a
Yeah.
virus, it is problematic. It causes lots of trouble, extra work, and
Correct.
all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
you just got to make parallels with that and thinking, okay, so my health, I do have, like right at the beginning, we were talking about planning. So every day we're planning, just making sure that say, what am I doing in terms of maintaining my health, my holistic health?
Yes.
all around, taking from the physical body to our mental state to our spiritual well-being. It's all connected. In the same way that our body can, let's say, be harmed by an accident or something, boom, it will affect our emotional well-being and our spiritual well-being. So it's an action and reaction coming both ways, interacting, and that is the nature of life on a material world like Earth. So where we suffer the consequences of being here in this material world, but it says, how does that make us feel?
Yeah.
What are our reactions? And I can't say enough, like, don't expect that suddenly you're going to be, oh, I'll be all good now and I'll be all accepting. It's not that. It's about, actually, if you feel angry or you feel disappointed, is to recognize, what am I feeling? So, oh, I'm feeling disappointed. That's okay. See, I feel
Yes.
disappointed. I acknowledge my disappointment and I'll let it go,
Yeah.
instead of hiding it under the carpet and pretending it's not there, trying to put on the mask of the goody two shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just like having that connection with ourselves, where
And
we
and,
actually get
sorry,
to know.
and yeah, and also having that connection, but having the courage to also ask beyond my reaction, my emotional reaction, my feelings that I emote when this or that is happening, like I'm disappointed. I think there's also a question of perhaps, and I'm going to use a business language here, but conduct a root cause analysis, right?
Yeah,
Which is simply mean why, right? Why does it bother me? Why
exactly.
do I feel disappointed? What is the thing that is hurting deep inside of me that drives me to emotion A, B, C, or D? And I think this is a really an amazing exercise to understand where you are, where you need to be. And one more thing, and I think you alluded to this, but I wanted to just take a moment to tell people we're getting to the end of our conversation. Time goes by so fast, right?
Yeah,
But we talked a lot about Joanna de Angelis and what she talks about from a health and well-being perspective. But she also, I believe it was her last book of the psychology series or psychology collection of 16 books. The last book, it's called The Psychology of Gratitude. I don't know if you had a chance to read, and but it's a wonderful, wonderful book. Here's a plug for everyone: Psychology of Gratitude. But in it, chapter after chapter after chapter, she's teaching us the not just the nuances about being and feeling grateful, but what are all the levels and sub levels of uh, areas in our lives that we should be grateful, just like what you said. If you come across a state of being diseased or ill, etc., let's look at it from a eye of gratitude. Not that you're going to be masochist, but look at it, what is this really teaching me, and how can I correct my ways to really attain a true state of health and well-being.
yeah.
And I think I wanted to lead us to closing, and I just love for you to maybe give some closing remarks. Is that okay?
Yeah, you know what I wanted to do? I just wanted to read here from the book. I'm just going to
Okay.
do. I have the book in Portuguese, so I'm just going to do an immediate translation, just as maybe some inspiration. It's
Mhm.
just like 4 phrases here from Joanna that she puts at the beginning of one of the chapters about the blessings of health, and pick up a word or a couple of words if they resonate with you, and you know make a think about what do you need in terms of health. What are the needs of your body, of your mind, of your soul? Be kind to yourself, love yourself. If you're going to love others, you need to start by loving yourself. This is exercise number 1. Start with self. But she starts this chapter by saying that divine vitality is spread over me, and it fills me with an excellent emotional disposition. I free myself from the toxic charges of the psychological waste, my anger, my hatred, my jealousy, my vengeance, my jealousies, and my bitterness. I come from a place of health. Illnesses are accidents on the pathway, and they don't stop me from going forwards. I'm healthy and trusting, and such I advanced, vitalized by the breath from the fountain that generates life. I thought that was quite beautiful.
It is. It's for all of us to think in those words, to meditate, to reflect upon, and to really embrace the divine that is within that will help us stay healthy. And all of you, my friends, thank you for being here with me and Anne talking about health and well being. Until next time, thanks.